today I am so blessed to have JP Sears back again to drop his knowledge bombs. I had so much positive feedback from last time when you were on JP. People really liked how vulnerable you were and talking about your relationship with your dog. And that was just an amazing interview. So thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for that feedback. And I'm grateful to be back again with you, my friend.
So you got the new book out. How was that? Was that like just a tremendous task to overtake?
Yeah, writing the book, especially like the first draft, where it's like that's the main writing of the book, that was really the main, call it hero's journey. And, that was complete well over a year ago, just editing and then publisher figuring out like what's the best date to release it, caused there to be, a wait to release it, as is the nature with book publishing. So once I got the first draft of the book done, that was just like, wow, that was a real accomplishment. And to me, the book was a win before anybody else ever saw it, because it was such a satisfying journey in myself and such, honestly, a wonderful accomplishment for me to write the book. And then now that I guess a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, the book officially being birthed into the world, that's a great relief, as well. As I'd admit, I've never been pregnant, and knock on wood, I'm not pregnant at the moment, but I would imagine for a pregnant woman, it's a bit of a relief after 9 months to finally let nature bring the baby into the light of day. So I kind of think it feels that way to me, only probably physically a lot less painful. So it's a real joy to have the book birthed into the world, and I've been very blessed. The book's been received well, so that's just like icing on the cake.
Wonderful. Did this open up any different vulnerabilities to you? I mean, had you done books and publishing before? A lot of the content you produce is videos and talks and things like that. Was this?
Yeah, it definitely opened up new dimensions of vulnerability for me. It's my first book, and comparing it to videos, it's very different. I mean, yes, it's creativity. Yes, it's self-expression. Yes, it's a bit of a dance with the outside world, because there's an audience that's going to watch the videos. There's an audience that's going to read the book, and, kind of dancing with the creative muse to bring it to light. So a fair bit in common, and there's a lot different. So with my videos, I'm a one-man show. I record my videos, I write my videos, I edit my videos, and then I release the videos, sometimes later the same day, sometimes the next day. But it's a very short conception, then gestation cycle before the video is birthed into the world. And again, it's like I'm a one-man show doing that. But with the book, I'm working with a publisher they've got, I think, 120 employees. It sounds true, the publisher. Mm-hmm. So there's a huge team and a long gestation process. And that was vulnerable for a few reasons. One, it became very apparent to me, even though I'm the author, I am a part of something that's way bigger than just myself, in a much bigger way than just videos. Like, yes, I hand the cup of communion in the video over to the audience and we drink from it together. But before the book is handed over to the audience, there's something so much bigger than myself I'm a part of with this creation process. So that was scary and exciting. Because like the fearful talk inside my delusional head said, what if I let these people down?
And it seems like that could carry on for a longer, like you're saying, you only have that time for maybe 24 hours before you release a video. This book has taken months and months. Was this the right choice? Should I have went with Sound True? Is March 7th the right date?
For sure. Talk about, having to stew in my own self-doubt, my own fears, for sure. There was, I think it was about 15 months from the time the first draft was finished to the time it was officially released. So and one of the things I liked about that was, in fact, the challenge. The immediate feedback I can get from videos, like in a way that's like yes, that's good usable feedback, and it's just codependently gratifying to my ego. So I think it was very therapeutic to not have that codependent mirroring feedback with the book, because it forced me to feel what I was feeling. Like I couldn't escape about, okay, I released the video two hours ago. Let me go see how people are responding for it. Like, oh, no, I have to wait 15 months. So while I probably didn't like that, I really valued it, and I think it was very beneficial to me.
Now, when you're going through this whole process, like many people who are entrepreneurs in the beginning are on, they're going through this process. They're on the fence about putting out the content, making the Facebook Live. I get so many emails from people that said, I did my first Facebook Live today. How do you accept that within yourself? I mean, I watched a great interview that you did talking about acceptance and how that's a very, very powerful word. And I don't know if you'd call it a belief, or I know it's something that drives you. I mean, how do you coach people that are going on that right on the border of maybe jumping into their own skin? Like you were saying, you were a kid for a long time and now you're out in the world free.
Yeah. I think something that I hear myself telling a lot of people, probably because it's something I need to hear over and over. We teach what we need to learn the most. But when it comes to expressing ourselves via, a Facebook Live or whatever it is, but when it comes to expressing ourselves, oftentimes also for the sake of discovering what our gifts are, that I think we have to dig through a lot of our own dirt. We have to really start expressing ourselves before we can really connect to the purity of what our gifts are. So I tell people the self-doubt, the way around it isn't around it. The way around it is to go right through it. So, if we've never done a Facebook Live video before, or again, whatever the expression is, it's very normal. It is very normal to have self-doubt, self-judgment, self-criticism, voices in our head, and feelings that are trying to prevent us from doing it. And if we do it, then during the process, we might feel the sting of like, oh, nobody's going to like this. And then afterwards, we might have a rebound effect where, we're judging the crap out of ourselves. I think we have to be willing to go through that, not avoid it, but go through it. Feel the self-doubt, feel the sometimes the shame, the guilt, the self-punishment, so that we can eventually get to the other side. I think if we're unwilling to experience the self-doubt, then we will always be limited by the self-doubt because we're always going to be posturing ourselves to avoid it. But if we allow ourselves to, what I would say, have the warrior spirit of courage to encounter the experience of, I'll do this Facebook Live, I'll put myself out in a new way, which means I will also encounter the self-doubt that comes from that. But if I can say yes, I have the courage to encounter it, not avoid those feelings, but I will feel them, and I'll keep going anyway. To me, that is the only way that we can eventually get to a place of freedom, of having less self-doubt. And I won't say no self-doubt. So to me, freedom is we express ourselves in spite of the self-doubt rather than restricting ourselves because of the self-doubt. So I think sometimes we can look at people who, maybe we admire, maybe they're mentors, maybe they're doing big things. And we can really, really do ourselves a disservice when we become so hallucinatory that we believe that person doesn't have self-doubt. And also when we play the trick on ourselves that says that person never had self-doubt. Maybe a mentor of ours has less self-doubt than they used to. And if that's true, they probably have less self-doubt because they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time. And to me, it's much like when a 1-year-old starts to walk. They are a terrible walker. They're going to fall. They're going to hurt themselves. But the force of nature that's acting through the child, the child becomes an open vessel. It's not trying to restrict it. So the force of nature that's acting through the child is able to find a new strength, new coordination. It's able to find a new experience of walking because the child is inherently willing to fail. It's inherently willing to stumble and fall. And I think stumbling and falling and a willingness to do so is the only thing that allows the child to walk. So I think a lot of us, by a lot of us, I mean all of us, can find, okay, what is the stumbling and falling that I'm avoiding that's actually preventing me from walking in a new way? Because I think we all have room to grow. I think growth is limitless. I think infinity is always bigger than we think it is. So we can ask ourselves, okay, in what way am I avoiding stumbling and falling, which is also means I'm avoiding walking in a new profound way. I'm avoiding finding a new dance. So anyway, Gary, I'm getting a little long-winded.
No, it's beautiful.
Because you got me excited.
No, I love when you talk more because I'm not. You are exposing my vulnerabilities. I want to be quiet. I would love for you to talk more. So, so please.
Well, I'm gonna take a vow of silence from here on out for the rest of our conversation. Well, push it into your fires.
Well, so my question really comes from this then. So the kid analogy is amazing. So I'll just pick me as a 37-year-old male. How do I go back to the 1-year-old that doesn't give a shit what people think? Is it all the experiences up to then, or is there coping skills, or is there a strategy that I can have for when so give you an example. I love to do my Facebook and love to put my content. My biggest fear is to go back and look at the comments, even though I know the comments are important, right? They're super important. They're very rarely to never are negative. People either that don't comment or they do. And I'm always like, I literally will have my wife or one of my friends go back and read them and then say, is there anything bad? I mean, I know, but I'm working and I'm aware of it. But is there anything that can bring us back to that 1-year-old that just says, oh crap, I fell. Let me just get up again.
Yeah. I'm not going to pretend that a simple little soundbite that I say will bring us back there at the snap of the fingers. I don't want to trivialize it that much because I think it'd be disrespectful, because it's a struggle, honestly. And I don't mean to, be pessimistic as well, it's a struggle, so it's got to be hard. But a few things that I'll say that will hopefully point us in that direction to the unapologetic 1-year-old that will have snot on its face and it'll stumble and fall and it won't say sorry. It won't say, I'm sorry, I'm not walking well. It won't say, ooh, I fell. I bet you're judging me, so I'm not going to try to walk anymore. No. So to me, realizing that 1-year-old powerful innocence that wants to seek new worlds, and it has to learn to walk in order to seek new worlds. It's inside of us. We have to realize it didn't go anywhere. We don't have to learn anything new. We don't have to acquire anything we don't have. We have to just realize the only thing that separates us from the powerful 1-year-old is the stuff that we've put between it and us as in like who we think we are. So I think first off, realizing like, wow, this power is actually inside of me. It's not anywhere else. So, okay, I've got it. And then a little bit of a footnote to that. To me, it's very helpful to remind myself, actually 2 footnotes, to remind myself I'm not who other people think I am. So if I'm reading a negative comment, someone who needs to be angry at me because they are angry about their own life, but they need to project it onto me, I need to remind myself I'm not who they think that I am. It's not my mission to base my sense of self off of their point of view. And that also means when someone's singing my praises, like, oh, JP, or Gary, this is like the best video I've ever seen. You are amazing. We have to remind ourselves, I am not who this person thinks I am. Because if I give my sense of self away to the praise, that means I'll also be as equally attached to the criticism. So it's a bit of a seductive trap if we are willing to essentially worship the praise. And I know that's a bit of a mental mantra. It doesn't cover the whole spectrum, but to me, that's important to just remind myself I'm not who other people think I am. And for God's sakes, I'm not who I think I am, because I think my inner critic is far more serrated and sharp than anybody else outside of me. So there's a saying like, don't give a damn what other people think. Like, yeah, that's great advice. But I think better advice is don't give a damn what you think either. Mm-hmm. I think if we let our heart and our actions live in a way that we offend our freaking mind, then we're doing really well. But if we let our heart and actions, a better phraseology would be if we restrict our heart and our actions in a way that continues to please our mind, continues to please our inner critic, that means we're suffocating ourselves. We're suffocating inside of a coffin of comfort where we're avoiding our own self-criticism. So I think when we offend our own mind, when our inner critic goes off, we need to learn to celebrate it, not to be intimidated by it. I mean, yes, feel the feelings, and it's scary and it can feel shameful, but we have to realize when we offend our own mind and do our best to not give a damn even what our own mind thinks, now we're starting to live unapologetically. We're starting to let something larger than ourselves live through us. And then just the second footnote that I want to say on getting back to that innocent 1-year-old, they're willing to encounter pain. Their willingness to try to walk, fall flat on their face, they cry, and then they get back up and do it again. They're willing to encounter pain. So a lot of us aren't. And how, at least for me, I tend to avoid pain is I live in my head. Psychologically, it's like we can become very dissociated from our body, which is where we register our emotions and sensations. So I think when we can become very willing and engaged and a regular dance partner with our feelings and our emotions rather than avoiding them, becoming vulnerable with them rather than disconnected with them, that means we're becoming the 1-year-old who's willing to encounter pain, which means we're also willing to encounter where that pain is pointing us. We're willing to encounter the stumbles that are necessary to encounter while we're learning to walk our new walk. And I think one of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, I've never read any of her books, but she's still one of my favorite authors. She's got a beautiful saying that says, he or she who's willing to become the most uncomfortable is not only the bravest, but rises the highest. So that if our friend Brene is right, and I agree with her, so I'd like to pretend she's right. So if she's halfway correct, when we are willing to embrace discomfort, not react away from it, but actually anticipate it and hug it, I think that is necessary for growth. So for me, at a very practical level, it's important to get in touch with my primal body sensations, taking a minute and sitting here and say, okay, what am I feeling in my body? And going and finding it, like one sensation at a time, and practicing the art of feeling our feelings. And I think I'm not the only one who's become very weak. My muscles of feeling feelings have become very weak. Much like any other muscle or practice or tendency, if we don't exercise it, it'll just get weaker. So if we consider my ability to feel what I'm actually feeling, if that's weak, then it means we need to practice it so that we can strengthen it through the exercise of practicing it. And I think practicing feeling our feelings is what allows us to elevate ourselves into the place Brene Brown's talking about of becoming willing to feel discomfort. So anyway, I know that's a little bit long-winded, yet those are 3 bullet points that are important to me to help point us towards the powerful innocence of the 1-year-old inside of us who holds our magical key to growth, self-expression, and therefore, I think, inner fulfillment.
Any doubt that you would go back 2 years ago and continue to put out the same videos you were? Or, I mean, so that discomfort that you were feeling from August of putting out a serious video, then the next day deciding you're going to put out a parody video. How, I mean, any doubts that you would take that back? I mean, that discomfort. It just seems like the last 2 years have been an explosion for you for that little bit of discomfort. It just seems like it's such a short.
Yeah. I mean, there were many doubts, many, instances of critical self-punishment at that time, and some from the outside too.
How about peers? Did peers start to change? Were they kind of like confused by what you were doing?
Yeah, definitely. Peers who knew me personally weren't. They're just kind of like, wow, awesome, JP. I mean, they knew my comedic personality that I was hiding in the professional light, but I let it out personally. But other peers, not all of them, but certainly some, I'd watch some of the comments or maybe personal messages of like, oh, JP, you are really doing spirituality a disservice and it's so disrespectful. So there was definitely some critical, doubting feedback that I encountered. And while I feel like a good sailor, a very skilled sailor at sailing those waters now. I'm saying it's always easy, but I feel like I've acquired the skills. In the beginning, it was much harder. It's like I was on the boat and experiencing the choppy waters of doubt, and I'd be tossed around on the boat, occasionally maybe thrown overboard. And so there was a lot of discomfort I encountered, and if I had to do it all over again, I would absolutely do it again. And, in the moments, I wouldn't necessarily know how important that discomfort was for me, because I could get, and I often would get caught up in the moment, like, oh, this is just, hard to deal with, without seeing the context of the bigger picture of, wow, this is actually really strengthening me to go even bigger, to bring freaking more of my heart to the table, more of my creativity, more of my voice to the table. And I think for me, in the moments of the doubt and then, really negative feedback from some of the peers, like, oh, that's a professional. They're saying something bad, like I'm actually doing a disservice when I'm trying to do a service. Like, woo, that I'm really rethinking. So in the moments, I would maybe call those, curses. But looking back, it's like, wow, those were great blessings. How I am much more strong inside of myself and much more connected to my creativity. Without trying to filter my creativity to please the outside world. So much stronger with all that, because I encountered these choppy waters that were really rough sailing. And there's I think it's an African proverb that says, smooth waters make lousy sailors. So luckily I encountered some pretty choppy waters that helped sharpen the skills of sailing and my creativity and my entrepreneurship.
Well, I appreciate it tremendously from the bottom of my heart. I mean, you're one of the reasons I started to put more stuff out. Part of it was the motivation of being you, and then part of it was the skills from the more, I don't know if I call them serious videos, but the more, the ones I kind of needed to hear more to be able to deal with putting myself out there too. So really just thank you and I thanked you last time, but I can't thank you enough always for putting out the content and being bold, because it's helped me be bold. So thank you from my heart.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your gratitude. That means a lot to me to hear.
So the book,
and hopefully I don't get too attached to it, but it means a lot to me to hear for sure.
And then but. No, I'm just kidding.
And what I hate most about
you, you got to attach to both of those feelings. So the book is out. It was out March 7th.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. You doing any in-person signings or anything? What's happening?
Yeah. So exciting things are happening. On the evening of March 7th, I was in Boulder, Colorado for the initial book launch event, and it was a real thrill for me. It was. We had a sold out house of 500 people come in, and I did some, my version of stand up comedy, then some stand up authenticity, and even remembered to talk about the book a little bit, and then I for another couple hours after that stayed and signed books and took pictures with everybody who was willing to wait in line for that to happen. So that was a real thrill. I mean, it felt like, wow, I am really supported, and this creative work is really being welcomed into the world. I mean, I felt so honored. And then, and following that, last week I was supposed to be in New York City for a book event, but there was a blizzard that had a mind of its own, so we rescheduled that. And I'm in Costa Rica right now, seeing my lovely lady, and from here I'll be going to Vancouver, then Portland, then Los Angeles, then Encinitas, then back to Los Angeles for book events in all of those cities.
Wonderful. Oh man, well I can't wait to keep sharing your content, because I think people need to hear it. It's just amazing. I love the seriousness and the comedy. I mean, it just really shows, I think, both, because you're super it comes across so authentically how much you care about and want to help people, but I just love how you don't take it so seriously, because it's like one of those things, you just, it's you and it's your thing, and you want to take yourself seriously, and just a breath of fresh air, I think, to the industry and everything. So thank you so much for coming on, and I will definitely be sharing your book content. If there's anything else, any other events, please send them along and I'll pass them on.
Cool, brother. I appreciate all of that, and I appreciate you having me on to your wonderful platform and letting us have a conversation where I got to hear myself talk about things I needed to hear, and I always love connecting with you, brother.
Thanks, Ben. Have a wonderful time in Costa Rica.
I will. Already am.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to read it. You have a wonderful trip.
Thank you, Gary. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.